Initially, before, even dating anybody I cared about, I wanted to have a big family. After the first year, I love like when I hear newlyweds talking about how many kids they want. We're gonna have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, so cute.
Tell God your plan.
Yes.
Tell God about
yes,
that.
He'll start laughing.
She had to learn how to share maternal things with her husband.
Yes. I had to let go of some of my gendered, like I'm the mom, I'm supposed to do that. No, he can change a diaper, he needs to know how. He did hair, and for a black mother
I learned how to do black girl hair. Not the best, but I learned how to do it.
He had his rubber bands and his beads and his barrettes out, and I remember I said something, he goes,
Separate part, oil.
he knew how to do it,
Yeah.
so I had to deal with that,
Yes.
but it worked. It worked.
I started doing natural family planning before we even got married so that I would know how to do it and taking my temperature. And the first year, no baby. Then my doctor goes, well, after the first year, if you haven't gotten pregnant, you need to see a specialty. So, I canceled with our priest. And actually, he sat down with me and he goes, I want to know what we can do, like to help this process. I don't want to spend my whole life like following the rules. And now just because I'm not getting what I want, I'm going to give all that up. Because I'm not going to have a baby. And he goes, well, you might not have a baby. That might be God's plan for you, is not to have children. I was like, wow. He hands me the box of tissue, And it just taught me, like, you're not in control. You don't get to choose everything. You don't get your way, and that's okay.
And we basically had 4 kids within 5 years.
First 4 years, no kids, then 4 kids in 5 years.
It's actually a good way to have
It
kids.
is. I highly
Clump them
recommend
together. You clump them together, they go through things together, sort of,
They're all friends, they have each other.
Yeah, they got a lot of
Yeah.
each other to play with, but a ton of work, and anxiety too. So it's the whole mix of all that stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. That phase of your life is really focused on, it's an effort to raise decent human beings,
To be a successful family unit is like you need other family units. When we're just like church, you're not meant to worship alone. You're meant to worship in community. And the same with raising your kids. You're meant to do it in community. I know that takes a village, it's like so, saccharine, but it's so true. You need your people around you. You need to raise your kids with your family, with your friends. That's how we were meant to raise our families.
Lori said, I'd like to have a kid. And I said, okay. And we're fortunate, she got pregnant easily.
I, first of all, didn't transition into motherhood very well. I had a very difficult time. I'd never even babysat a baby before, ever. So the first diaper I think I had ever changed was my own child's diaper. I had postpartum depression, which I didn't realize was postpartum depression. Had had a hard labor with John and then ended up with a C-section. And we didn't have any family out here in California. It was just Joe and I and friends, but no grandmas or aunts or anyone to call upon. It was a very difficult time for me, and Joe was still acting and I was going to work. He was a reserve police officer in Santa Monica, and John was seriously colicky. And he's telling me he's gonna go volunteer for the police.
Well, there's a reason why I did
And
this.
I'm like, I'm losing my mind here. And it was like night after, several times. Anyway, I knew where these guys would go eat dinner, the police. It was at Bruno's in Santa Monica. They always were there. And so I called him. He's like, well, we're just having dinner. I'm like, okay. I hung up. I literally put John in his car seat and I drove down to Bruno's and I took him in his car seat and I sat him down on the table and I said, he's yours. I'm going for a walk for 20 minutes. And I didn't know if I was going to hang John upside down or if I was going to strangle Joe. I wasn't quite sure, but one of them had to make a change because I was losing it. And it was both of us. It was me not really adjusting to motherhood, not knowing the expectations or the demands that it was going to put on me. Emotionally, with the postpartum depression, not really understanding that. And so I have a heightened sensitivity to it in my nursing practice and in our friends' children. How are you? Not how was the baby. A baby's going to be fine. The baby's going to survive. How are you doing? Because it can really rock your world and you not really realize what's going on there. And then I don't know, it took us about a year to get our stride going, but it never really was the same. There was always a little bit of strife, I felt, between he and I. Looking back on it, it never was easy. It never felt like, whew. It was always like, what did we do? Why is this rocking us so bad?
So John and I haven't been blessed with kids in our marriage. And of course, that's not what we imagined or dreamed. But throughout our marriage, one thing that we've always prayed for is to do the Lord's will in our lives. And so we realized that if we're asking for the gift of children and we long to do the Lord's will, then for him to say no is just as valid as for him to give us that particular gift.
Well, in
So-
that case too, it was on our part doing everything we could within the confines of what was permissible within the church's teaching and everything, and then allowing God to also let us know that it is a gift, and if his answer was no, then we had to graciously accept that too.
And it gave us a great peace.
Yeah, he gave us the gift of peace.
Really. And so with that, we feel that the Lord has instead asked us to use our energies in different ways. And he's given us lots of spiritual children, which is wonderful. And one of the ways that he has gifted us spiritual children is through the Truth and Beauty Project ministry. It exists to teach people the truths of the faith, but to do it all through art and beauty and scripture and liturgy, and to bring it all together.
He doesn't have any children. I just have the one daughter. It took a long time for us to fall in love, especially when you're melding whole families like we did.
So the whole thing about me getting a doctorate doesn't look like we're ready to have kids or anything. So we have tuition remission at University of Laverne. So Doug goes, I got my doctorate. Why don't you go get yours? And I go, really? Are you sure? And he goes, yeah, just go ahead and go do it. I said, okay, all right. So I applied, I get in and everything. And I have my first week of doctoral studies. And the next week I find out that I'm pregnant. And I thought, okay, God, what are you, you give me this desire, what are you doing? So we sat down, again, the communication. So we looked at the calendar and said, okay, Bella is due in July. I would finish my summer studies a week before she's due. So I'm thinking, okay, God, you are so good.
And you have about 2 months off before you had to
I
start
had
again.
2 months off before I started again, and I was good with work. I said, she's a perfect academic baby. We're gonna go there. And Doug he goes, you're not stopping. You're just not stopping. We're just gonna figure it out. We'll just literally, semester by semester, we'll just figure it out.
I was lucky enough I could rearrange my teaching schedule at the university. So whatever fit her schedule, I just made sure they scheduled my classes accordingly so I could be home with our baby and didn't have to worry about those things. And,
It did get tough though.
well, yeah,
So it did
it's a
get
lot.
tough. It was a lot. It was, I want to say it was third year or something. And I thought, I'm not doing this. And the house wasn't getting clean. I couldn't go to the grocery store, and it was too much, and I couldn't do my papers.
Sam was born in mid-December, and she was trying to get the whole thing done before the birth of Samantha. And she got everything done but her last chapter. Yes. And then Sam came. So she's literally sitting up at night, baby in one arm nursing, other hand on the keyboard typing the last chapter of the dissertation.
Yeah. But it was, again, it's that communication, that give and flow, that ebb and flow. Doug would be in the kitchen doing the dishes, and I would be in the bathroom giving baths and reading stories and everything. And that communication, that teamwork, is what we do best.
You have to sometimes give up a little bit of what you want. So I'm going to stay home and raise the kids. And sometimes you do get a little bit like, hey, I need a little support. I know what I'm doing may not seem so important, but, we still need to get the kids to A, B, C, D and places. And in the end, you realize it really is better for your marriage in the long run, and it comes back in spades in all sorts of other miraculous little beautiful ways. He is always thinking of me Just like the little tiny things, whether it's like my car is just a filthy mess and empty, you know, no gas. And then I go out, I'm busy, I'm late, and oh, my gas tank is full and my car is clean. Just like these little beautiful things that you do for me every day that, I don't know, they just touch my heart. You know, try to make sure I'm happy and I'm getting what I need every day. And it's not the big, grandiose vacations or diamonds, just these little sweet experiences that you want to do for them because it makes you happy too, to make them happy.